Hello, good afternoon. So, if you don't know me, I'm Ruth Kudzi and I'm the CEO and founder of Optimus Coach Academy. So, we're one of the partners in Flexible Working People. And at Optimus, we train people to become accredited coaches, where we train people in accredited coaching courses that are accredited with the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, and the Association of Coaching, and soon to be some other bodies too, but those are the main ones. And I'm on here today to talk to you a little bit about how coaching skills are becoming more and more desirable in the workplace, and how we're seeing a real increase of people who are training with us who are actually using coaching in their role. So interestingly, my background, my first degree is in management and psychology, which I did back in the 90s. And when I was studying psychology, when I was studying management then, we learned about leadership styles. And one of the leadership styles that was really seen as the most progressive and the most effective based on the research, even back then, was a coaching approach. And then decades later, I was a deputy head teacher and I was on a fast track to be a head teacher in a program. And again, you know, the data was presented that the best head teachers and leaders had this coaching approach. So we've known from the research and the data that a coaching approach to leadership is more effective. And that has been data that has been out there since the 80s. So we've always known this. But what we're seeing more is we're seeing more of an increase, especially on, in jobs, but also in the corporate world, of people starting to understand a bit more what coaching is and a bit more what that will look like. And actually people really thinking about how they can build that skill. So when I was a leader, when I was, on the fast track to be a head teacher, which I never got to, one of the things that we got is coaching. When the leadership team were not actually really developing that much, we learned coaching and then we embedded coaching into the organization. And we're seeing more and more of that. So we actually were up leveled in terms of our skill set, and that helped us be better leaders. So we know that there are lots and lots of coaches. And if you're on here and you're a coach, just say hello, because there are so many coaches out there. And it is definitely an area that is growing and growing and growing. It is the second fastest growing industry in the world. But actually, lots of people do not know what coaching is. And lots of people have experience of coaching that is very much like telling. I'm going to tell you what to do, or I'm going to show you what to do. And actually, coaching is all about supporting people to create the insight, and then they decide what they want to do. So their levels of motivation tend to be higher, their levels of engagement tend to be higher. And actually, it's about them working out what's going to work for them. And if we do this, we help empower the people that we work with, we help create autonomy, but we also improve communication because we're listening to those people. So it's really important when we're thinking about coaching that we're looking at coaching through this lens. And in organizations, sometimes there's a need for coaching for performance, which is much more around coaching to, it's not as deep. It's much more around coaching to a specific skill, coaching to a particular goal. And we might be using something there that's like the grow model or something quite basic to support our client or our employee to develop. But actually, there is a lot more that we can do in terms of coaching. So when we're thinking about that, I'm going to be exploring how coaching can really help leaders and managers be more effective in their roles. So part of the job as a leader is actually making sure that you are working with your team's strengths and you're communicating with them effectively. And if we have a coaching approach, it helps us to see things from other people's lens, from other people's viewpoints. It actually stops us being so judgmental, and it allows us to step into the shoes of others. And this can be really important when we're making decisions where we need to have more of an empathetic approach, but also it can help us resolve conflict and improve relationships and communication. It can also help us to think about how we best communicate with different team members. Some people are motivated by goals. Some people, are able to make quick decisions. Other people need more time. And if we're able to employ a coaching approach, we can start to tailor how we communicate, when we communicate, and what each team member needs. And if we do that, we're working with their needs, and that means that it's going to be better. It means that they're likely to perform better and be more engaged in what they're doing. And we know that globally, but especially in the UK, engagement in organizations is at an all-time low. In fact, I think in the most recent study that was done by Gallup, it was 12%. 12% of people are actively engaged in their role. Imagine if you had the skill set that you could support your team to, in a safe and confidential space, to help identify what they needed and support them to find their own solutions. It would change everything. And that's the whole thing, that coaching really is a skill that I believe all the best leaders use. And the data does back that up. And it is a skill that we can all learn and develop and grow. So we can get better in terms of our communication. We can improve our listening. We can be more present and focused with the people that we are communicating with, which makes for a better experience. We can put our judgment on the table and listen to others. We can work out what people's strengths are and how we can support them to play to those strengths. We can think about how we structure the experience for people so it plays to what they need, not what we think we need. And even as a leader now, I sometimes ask my teams questions and I'm surprised at their responses, or it's not what I predicted, because I'm not in their head. So by asking those open questions and by exploring, we're much better placed to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the people that work for us. And we're showing that we value people, which is key to building a successful business. So coaching skills are, I believe, an essential leadership skill, and an essential skill for developing ourselves and increasing our own self-awareness, increasing those softer skills like empathy, emotional regulation, which can be really, really key, by identifying and knowing what we need, where we need to work. Things like our stress response and how we're responding to different people, and looking at when we need to take a break. Because as leaders, we're often under multiple stresses. But if we are not aware of how we are communicating or coming across, then we can cause a lot of damage in our teams. I've been there, I've done it, but we can cause a lot of damage because we're not thinking about the consequences and we're not aware of how we're behaving and how that is impacting on others. But equally, it's about, not only enhancing communication, but helping decision making and problem solving. If we want to be at our most effective in terms of decision making and problem solving, then we need to be in the calmest state possible. Because if we have too much cortisol, if we have too much adrenaline in our brain and noradrenaline, what can happen is that energy can be taken away from the areas of our brain where we do most of our executive function, our deep thinking, our problem solving, our decision making, and can go at fighting the stressor or the threat that we perceive is there. And therefore, what can happen is that we can not make as good decisions. And we probably all know that. We've probably all felt that when we felt under stress or pressure, it's harder to make decisions. So if we are able to manage our stress, if we are able to support others through coaching approaches to manage their stress, we can actually improve decision making. And if we're able to understand a bit more about how the brain works, then we can create and curate environments, meetings, and teams where we foster decision making and where we actually look at what people need in order to solve problems most effectively. And it's not sitting at a desk 24 hours a day. But also, so there's so many elements of this. And I think I'm going to go back to my first story, that I first really started using coaching when I was a deputy head in a big, challenging school. Well, it was called the worst school in the UK, according to Daily Mail, which was great, but a big school in North London. And it was my first deputy headship. I was in my early 30s, and coaching helped me as a leader to believe that I could do my role. And that was absolutely huge because actually I had a lot of self doubt, I had a lot of imposter syndrome, and I really needed to work through that. By the way, I don't think imposter syndrome is a syndrome. I had imposter thoughts. But actually, it helped me build my confidence. It helped me build my resilience. It helped me build my emotional resilience. It helped me to regulate my emotions more effectively and therefore built my emotional intelligence. I was a better leader. I was modeling more the behaviors that I expected of my team, and I was able to perform more effectively. But also, I was able to coach others. And this is the thing that if you train as a coach or in coaching skills, when you're employed, you get that two-pronged thing. You are able to build your own coaching capacity. You are able to know yourself better. You are able to build your own resilience and confidence and all of those pieces and focus on your well-being, but then you can also support others. So I'm seeing more and more leaders and managers in corporate come and train as coaches. And really it's because they want to perform more effectively. They want to be a better leader, and they equally want to make sure that their teams are performing well. They're ambitious, they're curious, and they want to understand as much as they can about psychology and neuroscience and understanding how they can apply this to their role. So if that sounds interesting, I'm going to drop a link to what we do. We have got lots and lots of people in corporate who train with us and who go on to using this in their role or potentially building their own side hustle or business long term. I hope you've enjoyed this. Take care.